Well, today I'm here to talk about Oklahoma University. When I was at OU, and this will be a blog that's interesting, I was 29 years old when I crossed. Every tragic, and I guess I need to make this will be a video. Let me turn down this other videos play in the background because this, I guess, I would call it a ode to 1982 fraternity. When I say 1982, I'm referring to the year that somebody, which we'll never know, probably Brother Phillips or Marginy or guys that I may have had the opportunity to met, decided to pick four black guys to become members, and they became the founders, as we call it, of the chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Xi Delta chapter. Being a member of a fraternity now, almost 19 years, you realize it's the most simplest thing to bring a guy into the fraternity, four guys in the fraternity, but it's the hardest thing in the world to keep that fraternity going for 100 years. I'm part of a graduate chapter here in Atlanta, Georgia, that'll be celebrating 100 years. The graduate chapter, not the undergrad, but to think about it for a moment. To be the graduate chapter, you have to have undergrad chapters that are alive for your graduate chapter to be alive 100 years. And of course, we're in the deep south. Oklahoma is in the west. It's in the far out west. It's probably one of it is the farthest states where black universities or HBCUs are. If you go look at a picture of the HBCUs in the United States of America, the majority of them are below the Mason-Dixon line. So, racist Georgia, my Georgia, plantation, Civil War Georgia is part of that. In Oklahoma, the interesting part about the state of Oklahoma is that, of course, blacks moved out there, but they were in a different form of segregation that was at a higher level and a powerful level than Georgia. In Georgia, this is why I think Phi Beta Sigma, Xi Delta chapters, Texas will always be, but because it's much a bigger state. But I feel this is why we gotta support the Xi Delta Theta Mu, because they always will be small because of the numbers of blacks that can afford to go to this expensive University of Oklahoma College. And it's going to only get more expensive as we are going to go to the SEC. More football money is about to be brought in. And the tragedy about it is for the blacks that come into the University of Oklahoma, probably 65 to 70% of them will not graduate from the U if they let the traps of black life, fraternity life, issues within those areas kick them to the curb. And so one of the things that Phi Beta Sigma really was supposed to be about was it was supposed to help get black men from high school to the professional world. It was supposed to be a place where black men are supposed to get the skills to go and matriculate from high school to grandfatherhood, from being an 18-year-old to being a 55-year-old, and that whole time in between. But one of the things that I, found within and I hate to say it, wealthiest black fraternities, because we're only, like I said, 7.5% black female, 7.5% black male. That equals to roughly about 40 million, and we've been hovering at 40 million for the last 60 years. And that is due to lots of reasons, but one of the biggest ones we can say is the decline of the black family, decline of black marriages. Now with the new generation of girls and boys, so I'm 48, and so the new generation is the 28-year-olds now. Their mindsets and values and views about relationships, marriage, sex, children, it's traumatic. Everyone knew that we're gonna have sex. That's automatically expected. But no one ever thought that what would end up happening is that women would have two, three, four, five kids with multiple men, and then expect to say they want a high value man to come and take the child of those other men's sperm and marry and raise them. And that's one big wedge issue, but there's so many other issues that are in the middle of that. This upcoming week, Upside Delta chapter, and I think, well, not Theta Mu, they just had, I think they just had their Zeta Bolé, which is like a conclave. And being as I'm in Georgia, which has over 19 HBCUs, or excuse me, 19 colleges where we have Sigma and Zeta chapters. 19. Whereas in Oklahoma, there might be 4. Okay? And we understand why. My beloved Oklahoma is a small state. They may have 500,000 blacks out of 4 million. 4 million is a very small number, but to say 500,000 out of 4 million, half of 4 million would be 2 million, which means that we're nowhere near 50% of the population. And why would we? We're 15% of the United States population. They should be 15% of 4 million. Well, guess what? It's not. And that's understandable. Blacks didn't go and say, I'm going to the West to, as we say, boomer, meaning go out and find land, and sooner, meaning, oops, I got out there a day before and got the land that you were trying to get. Blacks had no ability to own land because we were still slaves or under slavery via the Indians or the white people. So to this day in Tulsa, Oklahoma, black people are trying to fight to get access to legal rights, which they never will get, as they are freed men, freed not from just freed from white slavery, but freed from white and Indian slavery. But Indians are no that much farther ahead than the blacks. So it's like double freed. But the reality, the Indians are tragically the tragedy of the whole problem, because they were the owners of the United States of America, taken over by the white man, and then they've been put on reservations, killed, murdered, massacred. They did everything that a warrior would do, but they still lost because God wanted that to happen. Because he wanted that to happen. And so here's a picture right here of an overweight Zeta, and I'm calling her out because there's a lot of us overweight Sigmas, and we got to live a better and healthier life. And the odds are, because of the mating and the sexual picks that we are going to be selected by, fat people are less selected for marriage than slim. Slim people get 3 and 4 marriages in their lifetime. This lady right here, I promise you, she's probably been single, and this is way back, a recent graduate, 10 hours ago, by my big brother BK Bruner, a recent college grad. That means she's about 22 years old, and she's that obese. The reality, as the late great Kevin Samuels, and I shout out to Kevin Samuels in his blog, we need to tell our people they need to get their butt in gear. But when you got 17 years of training from your parents that are fat, obese, poor, and struggling, and you get to the University of Oklahoma, and you're one of those few, like 9-10% that get into the big university. It's the Bazell Library. That's the picture behind. The same Bazell Library that was there when I was there from 2004 to 2010, 11, excuse me. And I wasn't, and I was in Oklahoma from 2001 to 2011, but I was in Norman, Oklahoma from 2004 to 2011. So I kind of call that my time, because my life was a university. It's a life of millions, well, I won't say millions, thousands of people. It's the only job in the state. I mean, really, it is. It's not like Georgia, where you got 19 universities and we got 10 million people, we're only 6 million more people than Oklahoma. But the problem is there are just not enough blacks to live in Oklahoma. And there are some that live in Texas, but we got to go and talk about that as well because Texas ain't that much better off than Oklahoma by far. And the reality is because the whites are now moving to Texas and they're going to take over Texas and turn it into a new California, which means that the Republican mindset of white people that got the money is going to rule. And California is going to lose because all those wealthy men have left Cali to go to Texas. What do you think it's going to do for the African Americans that had nothing but first generation college degrees in 2025? I'm talking first generation college students will be graduating in 2030 and 2040 and 2050. That shows you how far back we are and how long we got to go. And I don't know how long it'll be, but unfortunately, we have to be realist on that. The OU Blue Crew is a phenomenal crew that has about 114 members. So it's very, very small. A private group that my frat brothers decided to pick on Facebook. Facebook been out since I joined way back in 2005. I've got over 5,000 friends. I've got access to many different groups. But Facebook is come and gone to the next generation. The next generation don't even go to Facebook really no more. They go to Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. And so this is about trying to build the chapter for the future. At the same time, it's also about trying to get people that have been gone from the chapter back into the chapter. And so when one brother that crossed spring, April 2005, under State Director, the late great Tim Derrick, may he rest in peace, he passed away last year. Brother Marnie, Brother Phillips, I had the privilege of meeting them at Beta Epsilon and Guthrie at Langston HBCU University, the only one in the state of Oklahoma. And they're moving to Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm a part of at least 8 HBCUs here. And each of our HBCUs are about 4,000 or 5,000 members per piece. But then going to a University of Oklahoma where it was 30,000 of us, and that was on campus, plus another 20,000 that was virtual. Now with everything going hybrid now, the University of Oklahoma has probably got over 50,000, students that are taking classes. Now graduating, of course, we know the stats on that. But the fact of the matter is, just like Atlanta, Alabama, just like Mississippi, just like Oklahoma, just like Texas, the universities will never die. So this blog really is about that point. And the fact that the universities will never die. Every generation that's born will be going to college if their parents have prepared them for it. And for a lot of us African Americans, that is the reality. Our parents did not. And so if you're able to get to OU, if you're able to get into Oklahoma, and then you decide to get into this little tiny group, right? Tiny BSA, Black Student Association, like at most universities that are what we call predominantly white. And if you are able to fight and not die, and many of us have been through nightmares, our numbers should be a heck of a lot more than 114. When you go in the blue, we have a Sigma thing called the Blue Link. And in the Blue Link, there's a list of all the brothers and that pledged Xi Delta. I don't have any access to the Zetas, but I imagine they got the same thing. And it's at least probably in our maybe 300 to 400 brothers that have pledged since we were founded March the 26th, 1982, by 5 brothers. And so what I want to do as I, make this blog is I want to pay homage and this is me and my blog here.
saying, hey, let's have a talk online. We got technology now. There's nothing stopping us from being able to have access. This was our chapter in spring of 2006. This was our very first event after being crossing the prior year before. Come to find out, I learned from my big brother Bazel Bruner, BK Bruner, that the university never gave the previous students that went to OU in the late 90s and the late 80s anything. And so one of the things that we got to be able to say to the next generation of kids that may decide to join our fraternity, nothing's gonna be given to us. We're gonna have to fucking work for it. We're gonna fight for it. It's gonna be like Rocky IV. When a man say ain't how hard you can hit, but it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. And he said if you know what you worth, go out there and take the hits. But don't cry and say it's because of him and her and him and her. And it's their reason why I'm not successful. He said, cowards ain't that, and that ain't you. You better than that. He said, this is Rocky, fictional Rocky, saying it to his fictional son. And Rocky IV, who, as we all watch Rocky, know we never heard from that boy ever again. And Rocky, unfortunately, pretty much ended up having a miserable life. Moving on to Creed. Shout out to my black man brother, Creed Apollo Creed's surrogate or other son. But it still has changed the lives of a lot of us because what we see over and over again is a struggle. Let me give you a little story about this photo right here, from my particular opinion, because I can only speak for myself. It was four of us that crossed and pledged under Justin Montgomery, who was our Dean of Pledges. And this was, I applied the fall of 05 to do the application. And I had a meeting in the Bazel Library, the same library right behind this photo on the bottom floor, right there when you first walk in to the left. There's like these beautiful old rooms. And Bazel is amazing. It's like a 100-year-old library with like 5 stories, and they mix a 100-year-old library on one side and a new part on the other. And I'm a work study student, and so I'm also an older student. I'm 29, and I had already, been to college, flunked out. This is like my second opportunity to go to college. Thank God for miracles. And I was like, I'm gonna make it this time, man. I'm gonna make it. But it was hard. It was very hard. I'm majoring in accounting. I wanted to be an accountant. I don't even know how to do math. Come to find out after 3 years of failing and retaking accounting classes, I switched to management, which was the perfect degree for me. And I finally got out, but it was by hair. It was by hair. Thank God for TRIO programs. Thank for Dr. Deborah Brinkley Jackson and the blender I think it was on the 9th floor for the TRIO's a program that's still here today that I work with as I'm a member of the Lambda Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated alumni, and we got about 5 universities under our tutelage: Morehouse, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Mercer, Kennesaw State, and so these are all universities in the metropolitan area of Atlanta, Georgia. They're just like Langston, just like, not as big as Oklahoma, no, but other than Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech is a technical school, and if you go to Georgia Tech, you got to have a 4.0 GPA, and we don't have that many blacks. They got a 4.0 GPA with a 36 ACT to get into that school. So, our chapter out there is like non-existent. Phi Beta Sigma is a chapter of average men doing an amazing, extraordinary things. So, one of the things that motivated me, and I'm proud because I've had opportunities and men come at me from Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, but it was one thing that motivated me more, that made me really decide, and I'm so glad I made this choice. And I pray, brothers, y'all make y'all blogs, y'all talk about y'all stories, you come up here and you post it, dog. You let people hear your stories of what made you decide to become a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated
and hopefully within that Xi Delta chapter, so that men who you never met, who you may meet later on, can learn a little bit about you from your own lips. So shout out to doing voice memos, shout out to Apple and doing screen recording, what I'm doing right now. And if you are not a technically advanced person in that area, shout out to me on Facebook. I'll show you exactly how you can do it. It's simple, easy peasy, Japanesey, and you won't have no problems. All you gotta do is press play and start talking, and the rest is history. So one of the things that I will say within my little 2005 story, I come to Oklahoma at the age of 29. I'm a guy who is a veteran, joined the Army in 1992 and got out in 2003. So right before I come to OU, I'm just getting out of the military. And I'm kind of frustrated because I'm like, God, man, thank God the military saved my life, because I grew up without a father. I grew up with my mom. She had died just 3 years earlier in 2001. So me and my brother, have a younger brother, we both were orphaned because our dad had left us when my mom filed for divorce on him due to cheating. And we basically were, in a lot of ways, like a lot of people that you meet every day. So I'm no different. But one of the things I can say that's amazing, excuse me, I don't mean, something just happened there. What just happened? Come on. Go back to something just happened. It switched. I don't know what it did. What just happened? In the name of Jesus, C group. There we go. Got to be careful. I clicked on Theta Mu, and one thing about Facebook, it has a be careful when you hit the right hand side. It'll take you backwards without you trying to go backwards. Like right there. So I'm gonna have to take this and go in here. They're joined. Broom. Yeah, that's the chat room I tried to create back on June the 10th. This is a couple of links. This is on April 27th. I don't know what just happened, but I'm gonna have to just skip this, because sometimes this thing goes see all. Look at that. So Facebook, I hate to say it, is really obsolete, guys. And so for those of us who are thinking about tomorrow's generation of kids that graduate from high school just last year, just in a few months ago, we got to go to the next thing. We can't keep using Facebook. It'll be 20 years old in 2024. So, and I remember joining it when I was at Oklahoma, at Xi Delta, at Price College of Business, when it first came out under Mark Zuckerberg, and it was all about trying to get girls on Facebook. But let's get back to this photo. At the very top, right here in the blue, light-skinned brother right there, mixed brother, that's Justin Montgomery. It's kind of hard to see, unfortunately, because this is depixelized. He was my Dean of Pledges when I became a member. And I had 4 brothers. Over to the right, you can very see him because the brother's hand is covering his face, wearing a beautiful suit that somehow they got. It was amazing because we were poor. I'm talking, we only got, I think, $5,000 from the BSA to put on this event. $5,000. They in Oklahoma, when they put on a thing for their Delta, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, any of the white College Road, and we're talking massive homes on College Road right in front of the OU. That's Raymond Rusher right there. Ask and pray for him that he will come back to the fold. He's been gone. He's my LB. He's my number 2. And he is a lawyer now in Chicago, Illinois, doing great things. I hope he comes back. But the guy that I want to be is right here in the middle and he got that mean mug on, Verl Tobel, who is now a famous saxophonist playing all across the world. He will be the next, I would consider, Kenny G, albums, doing all kind of great things. When we met at OU, he didn't play sax. The first time he played sax was right at this event. Right at the very beginning, we had the beautiful Black National Anthem by our frat brother, James Weldon Johnson, may rest in power. And I play piano, and he plays sax, and we both did the opening together. I had someone's piano because I couldn't. I was poor. I had no money, and I lost my piano and so
we played, lift every voice and sing. And I mean, it was amazing because, God, I'm a fraternity brother of James Weldon. I get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm a fraternity brother of James Weldon Johnson. I'm playing it. It's for our event that our brothers before us have been doing called the Blue Review. And I heard all these great things about the Step Show that was bringing people from 5 states. That was the biggest thing they said. 5 different states. And of course, we talking about the Southwestern region, which has 5 regions. I'm not sure if it's 5 or 4, but we had Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. We had Texas, Tennessee, and Nebraska too. But I don't think we got nobody up in Nebraska no more. Maybe they do got some bros that over in Nebraska, but that's another story. Shout out to the Cornhuskers. Big 12. And so I'm a post student, so I don't have the money to travel. It's like I'm just trying to use financial aid. I borrowed to the max, put out about 65 grand. I did everything I could do just to go to this under school. At that time, we're talking $15,000 for books, tuition, and fees per year, minus any living expenses. And I had no help because my mom had died, my dad was gone, my family was poor. Only thing I had really was the fact that I was a military vet, and I just had a desire to do whatever I had to get on work study. So I'm working work study at the Brazil Library, at the computer lab in Price College of Business, and at CVS as a pharmacy technician, while at the same time trying to take 12 credit hours. I wanted 15, but I just couldn't do 15 per semester from the age of 29 to 34. And it was hard, but I only can look at the guys who were there who were 12 years younger than me. It was triple hard because many of the brothers that I saw, that I met, that came through Xi Delta, to this day, I don't see him no more. Jonathan Nemo, the guys that came after I crossed in 07, in 08, in 09, I did not get a chance to fellowship with any of the brothers from 010 all the way till today. And my hope is that we can bring those brothers in and we can have a reunion to meet new guys from old guys and to build bonds, because a lot of those brothers out there, like I know we've been fighting the fight. We've been struggling, and we think we're alone and we think that we can't do it. But the reality is, when we remember what we learned in being a Sigma, when we remember the Constitution, when we remember the words that we got in our brain, everybody hopefully should still have their brain. When we remember what we learned in our plan of action. Shout out to Verl Tober, because Verl Tober really was the guy that gave me the desire. He worked at the Couch, which is a big, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. It's a food court. And I'm on campus. I'm living in the Kate Center. I'm 29 years old, but I feel like I'm 18 again because I had to live on campus because I had no money to get no apartment, you know what I'm saying? And back in those days, apartments were like $400, $500 a month. I couldn't afford that. So I had to do some things. Shout out to Wally Animation, my amazing African brother from another mother who was very wealthy in Nigeria. Shout out to my Nigerians. I'm about 33% Nigerian after I found out on Ancestry.com. So I'm looking forward to coming to Nigeria, Ghana, and Dominican Republic, where all 3 of my 96% black come from. Salute, salute, salute. And brothers that I never would have ever got around, because how many blacks that live in the metropolitan Georgia or Florida or New York or Texas get around Africans from Africa, our brothers? Man, come on. Even in the States, and we got Africans all across in Georgia here, we don't even fellowship with Africans that live here in Atlanta, and because they're so wealthy and they got their bubble, and then we, of course, automatically not in their bubble, so we just diss them and don't want to fellowship with them, and that's wrong. That is wrong. So I remember Josh McDaniels. I want to salute you. I remember, like I said, Justin Montgomery. I think if you look closely, right behind Justin Montgomery is Ephraim Jobixon, Dr. Jobixon. This guy went through being a Sigma by himself because his LB dropped. And he, glory to God, had a hard time because we all want to have brothers on our own line. Well, the tragedy about it is that, like you would expect at a small fraternity, at a huge PWI, what do you think that our relationships are like within our line? In my line of four, two of the brothers, one of them was an Indian. Shout out to my Choctaw warrior, which I'll show you where he's at. He's dressed up here as well. Michael Hopper, who's now getting his PhD. Me, I'm shooting for my PhD as well. Here's Michael Hopper right there. It's hard to see him, but he's that light-skinned dude right there under Justin. He's right there. And he's, I think, studying Native American studies. The name of our tribe was called SS Tuscaloosa, which I didn't like at the beginning. I'm gonna lie. I hated it because I'm a black man. But I had to learn a long time, man. Just because you were raised one way don't mean that your way is the only way. And Choctaw Tuscaloosa is a Choctaw word for black warriors. Yeah. God and us in our history were Native American, and we're black and Native American through the interracial mixing like we got today in Alabama. And that's why the city of Tuscaloosa, where SS Tuscaloosa is named after, was after a chief, a black chief that was Choctaw, and his name was Chief Tuscaloosa. So we realized black men coming into this Phi Beta Sigma, we look at many brothers doing probate shows and we hear these different outstanding probate lines. I kind of wanted something like that. But as I look back now and I think, man, it'll be 2025 or mark 20 years since we crossed, and I look very much forward to celebrating that because it's something that I never thought I would be celebrating. But as I sit back and I think about this poem, I want to sing this poem to all y'all brothers that may hear this when we post this on our OU Blue Crew by Brother Nnamdi Azikiwe, Nnamdi Ben Nnamdi Azikiwe. To Sigma, thy scattered sons with lofty hopes and aims, achieving greatness which the world proclaims, regarding life with tenderness sublime, and with the design which knows no race or clime, appeals to selfish man. It does. To serve and love. That's our whole goal. We are supposed to serve and love. God's handiwork created from above. Phi, Beta, Sigma stands the test of years, supremely over blight and cringing fears. With unflinching will that cannot fail, the sacred cause advances to prevail. Give us the conscience staunch and spirit brave to master stormy sea and angry wave as the curtain falls o'er this very brief short life. We'll march triumphant from this den of strife, or den and strife, I said of strife. This den of pain and strife. Sorry, something's playing that should be playing. One second. That was my Jordan Peterson. Don't know why I started playing on this own. Shout out to Professor Jordan Peterson's teaching millions of people about how to be great men, and hallelujah, in this time. And I just want to say, as I know we're getting ready to go into a national conclave, and I just want to shout out to all of our brothers from the conclaves first one we had in 1916 in Washington, D.C., all the way to the one we're going to have here coming up in Houston, Texas, for the Southwestern region. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Unfortunately, I lost my job earlier this year as an engineer, and unfortunately, my job is so specialized that they don't have 5,000 jobs in my specialty. So when the opportunity loses like what I lost, I have to fight to get a new one, and end up losing years over the last 3 years of COVID. It's been really hard, but my faith in Phi Beta Sigma and in God has got me through. And so I'll say that to say to all the brothers out there, and there's a lot of brothers out there who don't want to come back because they feel like they don't have nothing to give, they don't have nothing to provide. I want you to know you do. Like the song Lift Every Voice and Sing that we all know and should know by heart. The first verse says, second verse, that a lot of people don't really hear about all the time. I think about and meditate all the time. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. The Bible says hope deferred makes the heart sick. Meaning when you got a belief for something and you got to wait 25 years and nothing come to pass, like Abraham had to wait 25 years to have his child Isaac, and his wife Sarah said, hey man, why don't you have sex with Hagar and have a child? Maybe that's the way God wants. And of course it was wrong, and that of course decision is made the Palestinians are the people that we know of Persian descent today, the Islamic people of the world. But the fact is we have to know that if we don't get what we really hoping for, our hope can die. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. We got to help our brothers build back that hope. The real reason I think a lot of our brothers are out there that don't want to be a part is their hope, man. They lost their hope, and I understand that. So I want to just say shout out to our founders. Shout out to our Honorable Robin Hayes Cox. Shout out to Ricky Mathis. Shout out to the Honorable Donna Wesley. Shout out to the Honorable Greg Taylor. Shout out to the Honorable Bill Jackson. Shout out to the Honorable B.K. Bruner. Shout out to the Honorable brothers today who are really trying to bring back Xi Delta. And if they are, they're honorable brothers because they're honorable by what they're trying to do for us. For the bros that don't care about us, that we pray for them. But for those who are trying, shout out to those honorable men and women of Theta Mu, women of Theta Mu, and men of Xi Delta. Shout out to the Honorable Arizona Leona Cleaver Stemman. Shout out to the most honorable, the five pearls of Phi Beta, of Zelta Phi Beta. I don't know, sorry, the founders of Theta Mu. I got to learn that, yo. So I believe it wasn't given to us when I had the brain. I'm looking at the brain right now in my hands. Brother Montgomery, you didn't give it to us, bro. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna find out because I'm gonna talk to some of these girls and ask them, can you tell me who your founders were? Because I don't even know when Theta Mu was founded. No, they were founded March 18, 1983. They were founded March 18, 1983. We were founded March 26, 1982. So I'll find out who your founders are, but still I stay shout out to the founders overall at the national level, the state level, the regional level, the state level, and the chapter level. Shout out to all of them. But I just want to say, and lift every voice we sing, our brother, James Weldon Johnson, said this: stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet. We ain't going to be weary, we're going to keep moving. Come to the place for which our fathers sighed. What are you talking about, boss? What are you talking about, yo? What are you talking about? What did my brother James Weldon Johnson say almost 100 years ago? What are you talking about? He talking about our ancestors, man, died, and they died without getting the actual goal accomplished. They did not see their kids go to places like Oklahoma University, the Sooners. They died not knowing whether they grandkids, that they don't know what if their kids would have kids or have kids would have kids, would even have the privilege of being a part of Xi Delta or Theta Mu. Shout out to my HBCUs, but everybody knows, and we all know it, graduating from a PWI degree has much more power than graduating from Jackson State University, which I'm going to for my PhD. I had a conversation with my brother BK a couple weeks ago. And he's like, dude, you know going to HBCU ain't like going to a PWI. You know you said that, bro. And he right. But at the same time, I learned by going to HBCU is different, man. It's like the things that Beta Epsilon had in Langston. The reason why our chapter is unsuccessful is because we never had that with Robin Haycock, We never had that with Ricky Mathis. We never had that with Bill Jackson. We never had them come back. Where is Brother Honorable Donald Wesley? Where is Greg Taylor, man? I want to shake their hand. If they're alive, I want to shake their hand and give them the grip. So the bottom line is, it's not just them, but what about the brothers that came in line 2, year 3, year 5, year 10, year 20, year 25. We've been founded, back in 1986. Right now it's 2023, so that means in 2026, we're going to be celebrating our anniversary of how many years as a chapter. If these brothers are alive, they got to come back. But if not, salute, we'll keep it going regardless without them. Because we ain't forcing nobody to do anything they don't want to do. The vows and the oaths that we took when we became Sigmas should be what motivates us to do anything anyway. I remember when I have, and this is through Justin Montgomery, as he whooped us in that apartment, which I can't remember what apartment it was to this day. It was in the basement of somebody's house. Don't remember where we had our set at, but I do remember when we had our sets, Sigma Education Time. He made us say this. As y'all probably gonna remember this on the top of y'all head. He made us say this, and I've thought about it and said this thing for so many years. What is an excuse? An excuse is a monument of nothing, which builds bridges that lead to nowhere. And those who master the skills of incompetence are masters of nothing. For that, I didn't understand what that whole thing meant. Probably for 20 years. 18 years, because I'm celebrating my 18th year. But when I think about what he made us memorize, and I didn't understand it because later on, I talked to my Kappas and my Alphas and Bras, Masonic Lodge, and they all had a version of what an excuse was, and a different way. But the fact of the matter is, we can't live by excuses. An excuse is a monument of nothing, man, that builds bridges that lead to nowhere. Which means that if we keep giving up excuses, we just building these nowhere bridges. We just building nowhere bridges. And those that master those skills of incompetence, which is what an excuse is, they're not masters of anything, they're masters of nothing. I didn't really understand that. I don't know where he got that from, what Big Brother gave him that, but thank you, whoever you are. I pray that if you are a Sigma and you hear these words, that you go back and find your brain. I would like to also say to anybody who does got more knowledge, I am a part of MIP process here at Lambda Sigma Chapter, Alumni Chapter in University of Oklahoma. Shout out to Chi Chapter, Morehouse College, HBCU. And I realized by being a part of the HBCU space and just being a foreigner, because I went to OU, so I'm not really connected and I'm not included in a lot of the things the HBCUs have done. Sadly, but you understand why. I'm from Oklahoma. I live in Atlanta, but they know you're not from us, and that's kind of understandable. But I realized that's why it brings me passion and desire to want to help bring the next bunch of brothers to have a beautiful photo like this at a step show and we had it downtown, at the Lloyd Noble Center, right down there where they play basketball. We turned that place out. But the reality is, I think about when all this occurred, we barely financially, because I was the first vice president of the chapter. Brother, my LB was the president. We had no money other than what the BSA gave us. And I talked to Brother BK, shout out to the Honorable Brother BK Bruner. He said, man, when he was going to school after his mom had got sick and he had to take a break and come back, he said, man, he got nothing. This chapter got nothing when they were going through in the mid-90s. And I was like, wow, man, wow. Because I graduated in 93 from high school, and I didn't go to college well, I didn't go to college the second time until 2004 because I went to the military. And I thought about what would have happened if I had went to a university and tried to be a Sigma during those times. Probably the same way, struggle, struggle, struggle. So we got to salute those brothers that had to go through and be members of Phi Beta Sigma, and we need to sit at their feet on Zoom and have these what we call chats. One of the things I love about Islamic Sigma, who is 100 years old, 99 years old this year, celebrating 100 years, is that we have, because of COVID, shout out to COVID, it opened up doors. Now we don't gotta be coming physically. We can be on a call, and I could be in Texas, and I could be in the chapter meeting in Atlanta instantly, and watching everything, hearing everything, aye, voting, yay, nay. We can do all parliamentary procedures. And boom, after all that's done, after the work of Sigma's done, we didn't come and we start having stories and we sit and listen to brothers. My grad chapter's got like 5 former international presidents. And so when these men come and they start talking about what happened in Phi Beta Sigma back in 1955 when they had their conclave in Louisville, Kentucky, or 1962 where their conclave was in Cleveland, Ohio, or 1969 when their conclave was in Baltimore, Maryland, right? And I'm going, God, I want to go to these places so bad, man. And to hear what those men went through, the little stuff that we went through was nothing compared to what our brothers went through. So I pray if you ever get a chance, frat, wherever you stay, whatever part of the United States you're at, find a chapter in your area. You don't got to come back to Oklahoma. We can all be volunteering at whatever chapter we at. And now with Conclave, and now with President Ray, and the next president will come after him, and the next one will come after him, and the next one will come after him. Probably it's going to be Brother Busby. Shout out to Brother Busby. He was my big brother when we crossed. Matter of fact, Brother Busby should be in this photo. He here. Everybody in this photo came down from Beta Alpha. And of course, this was our stop show. Where's Brother Busby? I know he's right. Oh, come on, Holy Ghost. Where's Brother Busby? I don't see him. He's in this. He's here. Because all of his line was there. There's Dr. One of his LBs right there in the black. The ones that are wearing black with the dark. No, that's not. I think that's a group. That's not Brother, but that's not Mark Harris. That's not Brother Harris. There's Brother Harris right there. There's Brother Harris right there. Dr. Harris. Shout out to Dr. Harris. And his LB, another doctor. Out of his 4 brothers, I ain't gonna lie, 4 brothers at Cross Beta Epsilon and Langston University. I think 3 of them are actual doctors of philosophy. I hope to be one of them coming from Psi Delta. Salute, salute, salute. But the reason why they are is because they got something that a lot of us brothers in Psi Delta never got. And that's because we didn't have our love or our elders come back to our chapter to pour into them. I was blessed. Sorry. Brother Tim Derrick is hitting me right now. I was blessed to have Brother Tim Derrick be our state director. And Brother Derrick, out of UCO, Central Oklahoma, he didn't go to OU. But he cared about us. I was the line president of us 4, and we got to go and visit and pay our. At that time, it may have been like $700. That was all we had per quote unquote, individual to do our application. A PS was what name of that form? I got it in front of me here. The member application, and of course, we online, so we can't wear nothing but black. My hair has been like grown out for like 5 weeks. And brother brought in the first merger. And we're going to honor him. We're going to get him into the Distinguished Service Chapter of the state of Oklahoma, just like as and national, because he deserved it. His memory will not die. We won't let it die. But just like Brother Marnie and Brother Phelps, may they all rest in peace. I had the privilege of going to those meetings up and meeting those brothers up in Guthrie and Langston. And I felt, as all of us probably felt, especially coming out of Xi Delta, a stepchild, because a lot of the brothers like Ricky Mathis and Donna Wesley probably didn't turn out well in life, so they didn't want to come back and partake and give us their wisdom and their knowledge. Well, that's okay. Life goes on. We're not going to make you do what you don't want to do. But I am. Like we learned, I believe in all that Phi Beta Sigma represents. And I want heralded and defended even to the world for the first initiative of Phi Beta Sigma, Brother Al Scruggs. And so, as I ain't thought about these things in a long time, I just know that if it wasn't for my dean and for Verl Tolbert and for Brother Marcus Johnson, not little Marcus Johnson, big Marcus Johnson, muscular Marcus Johnson, you know, he's now a doctor, PhD down there in Dallas as well, but he hasn't come back home because he decided to give up the whole Greek life. Dang. But I'm proud of he at least got his PhD. And but I ain't giving up the life, no matter how much I had some disagreements with it. I'll be straight up honest with you, and I'll say this straight up to anybody, and me and BK have arguments to this day, we're going to have it. I'm a man of God, I'm a pastor, so I'm going to come at you that way, always. My name was Bishop Blue on when I crossed. Biggest thing that I think breaks up the black community of our little 15%, and that's all we are in the United States, 40 million of us, dog. We got 400,000. It's going up every day because the Hispanics and the people from the South are coming. I expect in the next 50 years there'll be 500,000 folks living in the United States of America. Densely populated on the East Coast in Texas. I don't know about Oklahoma, unless they find some oil or gas or something. But the bottom line is, within our little fraternity, should we need 15% of OU? No, we should, but we're not. And why do I say that? Shout out to blackdemographics.com, censusbureau.com. Look up the stats for yourself. 15% of 400 million is like 40 million. I take that back. It's like 375 million is how many we got right now based on the 2020 census. They should be having a new census coming out in 2030. We'll see what the upgrade is. And I hope we start making some babies and creating life so that by the time we hit 2030, we at 17% population, 18% population. But right now, based on where we're going, we may not be. And that's what the Phi Beta Sigmas and the Divine Nine is supposed to be. The talented 10th that's supposed to lead the way for our peoples. And that's the thing that I realized, unfortunately, we lost. Because we did not spend the years after we graduated meditating on that brain. Meditating on what we learned in line. Meditating on the actual Sigma prayer. Meditating on lift every voice and sing. Okay? The second verse of lift every voice and sing that most people will never really sing, because we always sing this little poor ass, excuse my French, version of most of our black HBCU events, and we gotta stop that. But how do we stop that for the next generation? We gotta let them listen to stuff like this. We gotta talk to them. We gotta use video. We gotta use audio. We can't always say stuff face to face, thank God, because of technology. We can say it online. Shout out to YouTube.com. We need to make our YouTube channels, yo. Very simple, very free, easy to use. Get your subscribers for Xi Delta. We need to have a Xi Delta YouTube channel, and we need to get 1,000, 10,000 subscribers. And we can, because people will subscribe to just us because we blue, we Sigmas. And it will interconnect us with all of the YouTube channels in Phi Beta Sigma across the United States, because that is the future for us. So all of those that crossed in the 90s and the 80s, yo, we love you, we honor you, we want you, but we are aging. We're not going to be getting any younger. It's about the future, and we got to always remind ourselves it's about the future. Starting the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place which our fathers sighed. We have come over the way with the tears that have been watered. We have come treading the path of the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gloom of our bright star is cast. What a powerful word from our brother. And I sit back and I go, why do you get these thoughts from, man? When our black men being lynched and killed and beaten down, I mean, they couldn't think of how we didn't have it so good in 2023 compared to how they had it in 1923. Shh. We all know about Greenwood in 1921 and the riots that we still fighting for reparations to this day. Shout out to Demario Solomon Simmons, Omega Psi Phi brother from Oklahoma, his lawyer, Boomer Sooner. But when I think about these words, it makes me that much more realize how much work we got to do as brothers. And so for my sisters, I want to say that I don't really have a lot of relationships with my sorors here in the state of Oklahoma, but I got a lot of sorors that I met here in the state of Georgia, and I love y'all. I look forward to meeting y'all online and our Zoom calls. I want to get to know you, your wife, your husband, your children, your grandkids, God willing. And I'm a single black brother looking for a beautiful woman. I'm not gonna lie. If I find me I would put I would say Zeta always be number one. But it's not all about getting married to a Zeta, even though I'm passionate about Zeta. It's really about the next great people, the next great future Sigmas that are going to come and be in their photo in 2030, 2040. Time value, best performance of duty, perseverance, the worth of example, the virtue of patience, talent expression, economic wisdom, the value of character, kindly attitudes, pleasure in work, worth of organization, and the dignity of simplicity. Brother Honorable B.K. Bruner, we want to salute you, man, because you are stepping into the shoes of the Honorable late great Tim Derrick, Honorable late great Brother Margin, Honorable late great Brother Pitts, and other men I don't even know of, but these are the three that I met when I became a member of Phi Beta Sigma and been in Oklahoma from 2004, fall 2004 till I left in fall 2011. And so for the young boys that you meet on campus, let them see this video. Let them hear my heart. They don't got to see me. I think it's much better to hear me first and just hear my heart. And then if they feel like I'm not lying, if I'm lying, then I'm sorry. I hope they don't feel that way. But I hope they can feel the passion of being a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Xi Delta chapter, the X-rated Xi Delta chapter. And for those out there on the campus of OU, especially that are going to be coming into college in the next couple of days, and that's going to be at, as when I was at OU at Kate Center, right across from the Seed Sower. Shout out right across from Dale Hall. Shout out to my Dale Hall, where I spent many hours, many nights, 2 a.m. till they closed. I closed that place down before we all moved, had the new buildings that they got now over there. And they got some great buildings too. I ain't gonna lie about that. Let them know, man. No matter whether we live in Atlanta, no matter we live in New York, no matter we live in Accra, Ghana, no matter whether we live in Namibia, no matter whether we live in Japan, Amsterdam, South America, no matter. We got technology, yo. All you gotta do is use your internet that they give you for free for being on campus. Cause I know how hard it is to be on campus. I was there too, going to Couch Center, going to Adams Center, going down to the basement, getting in the computer lab, being there at 2 a.m. because I had no internet. I couldn't afford no free Wi-Fi. But still, boss, you still can survive, dude. But if you can get around us and hear our story, it'll give you hope. And just like the Bible says, hope deferred made the heart sick. When you hear our stories, you will get hope. Your heart won't get sick. It will be strengthened. It'll give you the courage and the fight those exams to pass junior year, to pass senior year, to pass master's degree, to pass doctorate degree, to pass job 1, job 2, job 3, job 4, job 5, whatever. But it all comes back to remember where you came from so you know where you're going. Hallelujah. And I leave you off with this last line from glory to God. Our history. The Board of Deans recognized Howard University's fraternity back in April 15, 1914. The Alpha Chapter of Phi Beta Sigma was organized May 4th, 1914 on Howard University's campus. The presidents of Phi Beta Sigma were the first one, Honorable Abraham Langston Tatum. Second one, Honorable I.O. Scruggs. The third president was Honorable William Sherman. Fourth president, Honorable Walter M. Clark. The fifth president was Honorable John W. Woodhouse. On May 4th, 1914, A.M. Walker was the first candidate to be initiated to the Alpha Chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to my LBs, Raymond Rushing, Michael Hopper, Jesse Robbins. We were initiated April. Second Saturday in April 2005 at 5:32:45 a.m. at somebody's house. I don't remember where it was. Crossing the hot burning sands of sand, like Africa sand. I didn't realize till later on they baked that sucker in the oven for like hours. Crazy stuff, but it was cool though. And I remember, because being number one, the Ace Club did the first to come through. And I had to remember that time. And they always asked, what time is it? And I remember we always would say a time. And we say to the last beat of my LB's heart. Now, I didn't understand what really that meant. I hope we can help these young boys that are Sigmas of 5 years who left the national and the regional and the state chapters. I hope we can bring their hearts back to what they hopefully got in their experiences of the process. And I know there's a big debate on pledging and underground, and I agree. Shout out to the Sigma video that was put out just about maybe 10 years ago about a sad, and that was a Sigma chapter, where the brothers were pledging and they were doing pretty much everything they had us do, except the only thing is that our brothers gave us SWATs, and we did our SWATs. Of course, we was in the cut, but thank God for Verl and for Josh and for Marcus and for others. They really want to make sure we honor them. They really made sure they didn't let it go overboard. And tragically, in a lot of chapters, that's one of the reasons why a lot of brothers don't want to be a part after they go through this rite of passage, because they feel like guys that were not Sigmas are beating us and doing crap to us just because they got this bravado. And there's a lot of crap going on in our fraternity like that. A lot of, as we call it, You either blow your paper or you are your workers, and that's a bunch of crap. But there is an issue where brothers care more about wearing letters than doing the work, and your work is going to speak for you. And I'm one of those guys that I have to say, due to my job, my work is not as good as I would like it to be because my job, unfortunately, has conflicts. But I pay my dues and I support and go to meetings. And if that's all you can do that. If you can do more, do that too. But don't be a stranger and then come around and try to throw out the sign like you've been involved when you know you can go back to the Blue Link and you can't find your records because you don't have 9 years of being financial, 10 years of being financial, 15 years of being financial. I'm in a grad chapter where guys have been financial for 30 years. They're life members, square. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how can I ever get there? Just a side last nugget to make me relate more to you. I'll tell you some stories, dog. Like I said, I'm a senior collaboration, which is to communications, a computer engineer. I work with Java, C++, a lot of programming languages, and I build stuff for our telephones and voice and video circuits across the world. And of course, my job is specialized because for most of it, it's white guys that got degrees in computer science. And they got their computer science degrees at XYZ University. And preferably as an African American, I'm one of the only African Americans in this space. It was a black woman that gave me an opportunity at AT&T because I was a Sigma and I moved to Atlanta in 2012 with my resume, and she gave me a job as a engineer, and I had no experience in engineering. All I had was a degree in business administration and military experience. But I bust my tail and worked my butt, and I learned. I put that first above everything, and that's what you gotta do. Why? Best performance of duty. Best performance of duty. 12-inch rules. And so that opened doors. And over the last 12 years, I have been traveling, been doing great things, but it was because I was a Sigma. That lady said, "You went to Oklahoma?" Yeah, and that didn't sound good because when you think of Oklahoma, what do you think? White Oklahoma, exactly, right? But then I'm a Sigma. She's a AKA. And I realized then the power that we got from the privilege of becoming members of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated at a PWI like OU. But we all know when we walked on campus, we didn't want to be there because it was predominantly white. When we sat in classes, I know I did, at Dale Hall with 300 other folks, and the white people never said a word to me. When I sat at Price Card of Business, I sit in the front seat because I didn't want to see the white people's face. I had a lot of anger and a lot of vitriol toward white folks when I was going through college. When I graduated from college, I didn't even smile, man, because I was angry. So I can only imagine what our brothers are going through today with George Floyd and the stuff that they just had to go through in the last 6 years. COVID, George Floyd, the murders. And interesting, when I was at OU, was so surreal, going back now, it was when President Obama got elected. The night he got elected President of the United States, I'm at Cates Center studying for my exams, Price College of Business for my degree. And I remember the screams when they said the first black president of the United States of America, Barack Hussein Obama, come out of Chicago, Illinois. And I remember seeing the white people's faces on that campus, boy. Ooh, they were mad. Not realizing how we would come all the way today to Trumpism, all the way to today to what we see with Biden, all the way to today what we're going to be seeing in 2024. So it's real, dog. We got to put our boots on the ground as we get ready for the election season next year, just like we did it back in 2020. We out here in Georgia still fighting because we got to fight again, because just because we got a black senator don't mean crap. it's about local politics, always and always will. We just today, a couple weeks ago, lost a horrible decision for all of y'all in college like me. We had to borrow money, unsubsidized Stafford and subsidized Stafford loans. President Biden trying to make a plan to give everybody $10,000 payment off of their $100,000 plus loans that most people got. 6 justices of the Supreme Court, majority of them are female, that just got elected by a president, Democrat and Republican, said no. $10,000 ain't crap when you know you're going to be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in your job if you get out of University of Oklahoma and get a middle class job over 40 years. But the reality is the game is fixed, and that's why we as Sigmas got to look at things in multiple layers. It's not just at the chapter level, not just at your yard level, it's beyond. Because many of y'all going to leave a state like I did, go to different parts of the United States for your jobs. But you always remember that OU is still home. So I want to say, boss, Soros, if you're listening, I hope that we can start doing different types of just events. Not always doing parliamentary procedure. Yeah, we know we got to do that. But what really we need to have is video. Now that y'all coming to the SEC, that means y'all gonna come to Alabama. That means Alabama's coming to y'all. That means there's plane trips, yo. That means that you gotta come to Georgia to play against big time Georgia, yo. That means playing against big time Florida, yo. And if we don't got the funds to help our bros to be able to make those little tickets, because they ain't that expensive when you already know what the date's gonna be in advance. All you gotta do is lock it in. It's 6-8 months. But if cats only had that kind of cash flow, and I know I did when I was at Oklahoma, how are we going to get these young men to want to become older Sigmas like me and be members of the fraternity 18 years later? These are the questions that I think Tim Derrick would want us to ask, that I think Brother Martin and Brother Pitts and your big brothers that were your directors, were y'all in the chapter. Shout out to everybody. I love you guys. Salute. Go Mom.